Um, I think my presentation is basically to introduce colleagues to the services of DIRISA for the benefit of those that are not aware of our services. Where do we fit in this broader picture? So as DIRISA, we form part of what we call the National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure System. Some of you, we are at the CHPC conference. It is, the institution that has actually been in existence, for longer. But obviously, it's now being complemented by the South African National Research Network, which is more on providing, the network infrastructure, as well as us in DIRISA that, we're focusing more on the infrastructure, the tools as well as the systems, to support data-intensive research. Because like we are saying, data has become so fundamental in any research, or collaborative efforts that we do in the production of knowledge or scientific knowledge in general. Then, if you look at the environment that we operate in, these are basically the areas. We've been delving in the earth, and environment, energy, health and bio, humans and society, as well as in materials and manufacturing. Basically in any field of knowledge where there is a generation of huge quantities of data. And like I said, we complement the CHPC that is responsible for computing, as well as Sandren that is really responsible for networking services. So we come in from the data services side of things. Then in terms of maybe if we just look at overall in terms of what our objectives are, it's really about providing, like I said, the national research data infrastructure. So our services are really looking at the national infrastructure from a data point of view. We are also looking at the research data management, its capabilities that as DIRISA going forward, we will continue to grow so that we can provide, the community with the necessary data management capabilities, as well as advocacy and coordination in terms of the stakeholder engagements. Because like we said, even in the keynote sessions, it's about creating that community of practice, especially in the scientific and knowledge generation community. Development of human capital skills, as you are aware, we even are having a datathon, our student competitions. We play very much in that role in terms of supporting the development of skills in South Africa. We all know that, data science skills, as well as other STEM-related skills are very scarce in South Africa. So this is also an area that we are playing in. There's quite a number of initiatives that we're running, the eScience Masters, the Datathon Challenge that I've already alluded to, as well as the Coding School. Then thought leadership as well. We believe that we have that role to play, not just in South Africa, but looking at the broader of Africa when it comes to issues of thought leadership. We've been involved in the development of the big data strategy, African Open Science Platform, the eScience Framework, as well as other platforms. I'm sure you're aware that in 2027 we will be hosting the IW, the International Data Week conference, which will be held in Cape Town in September. So those are the kind of things that as DIRISA, we are involved in, not just in South Africa, but regionally, in Africa, as well as looking at the global stage. So looking at the national level in terms of what are some of the key policy considerations, as you are aware, there's been quite a lot of developments, particularly around the data. There's been lots of talks around the data, data being the new oil. But as a country, as South Africa, how do we then begin to handle, some of the data as an important resource? So it's really about establishing a robust digital ecosystem by driving digital transformation, ensuring issues of security. I think some of these issues have come through. You can actually draw a golden thread in terms of, some of these themes: security, issues of transparency, empowering citizens through data-driven services. Then obviously underlying those is the key principles of adopting a cloud-first approach, ensuring issues of data privacy and security, as well as issues of open data and interoperability. And you can see that these are themes that have sort of like been consistent throughout the conference. I think I've already basically touched on this because I just want to leave much of the time to Dr. Poshoko to sort of like, unpack in terms of what are some of the key services that we are doing. So basically, what are the benefits? Issues of data sovereignty. It's been quite topical in terms of how do we begin to take control of our data as South Africa. Enabling innovative digital platforms, facilitating knowledge, data, as well as expertise sharing. Even the one of the keynote today was talking about issues of data sharing, particularly in our space. So DIRISA is an enabler. We play quite a key role, complementary role with some of our sister entities, that is the CHPC, as well as SANREN, to form what we call the National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure System. And we are also beginning to play, be it in the SADC region as well as in the African region, because we believe that we have built capabilities, and through collaboration we can begin, to become a leader in Africa. So with that being said, let me introduce Dr. Poshoko to just take over in terms of, unpacking some of the services as well as some of the products. And we are hoping that after this presentation, some of you that might not have been aware, and, you will begin to sort of like interact with our services as well as subscribe to some of the products and services that we offer. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. K.
Good afternoon. I'd like to roam a bit. Let me see if I get this right. If you have paid sufficient attention on the initial slides, you would have seen that my director's first name is Mo. Mo as in Mo. And interestingly, success is my first name. So Gadlego means success. But I'm not here to tell you about myself. But we are definitely interested in partnering with you so that you can continue to have more success in your research journey. So, but what we're going to do now briefly is just a simple thing. The first is just to have a high-level view of how things fit together. And then after that, we'll have a bit of show and tell just to give you a sense of what to expect on our Data Commons platform. And then because you're a special audience, we'll end with a special invite. I don't know. Let's see if I can get this right. All right. So we have our services running on the Nikki's cloud. Some of you might be running projects already. So they talked about adopting a cloud-first approach. We are also making use of the cloud. And these DIRISA services are also connected with the National Supercomputer Facility in Cape Town. And many of you, or some of you, might already be using the services in terms of running your workloads. And what we have in place is the connection between DIRISA as well as the cluster. We are able to move your data from the CHPC cluster and push it to DIRISA storage repositories. I think you'd recall in the Base of Further session yesterday that there is a patch policy at the CHPC that you're required to remove all data every 90 days. But what we want to emphasize and perhaps encourage you is to consider making use of DIRISA services so that you don't risk losing your data. So as Nikki's, we don't just want to look at only one end of the compute, but we also want to support your research journey from both ends. So the infrastructure is supported on a data management system called IRODS, Integrated Rule-Oriented Data System. And we have like two repository areas, which we can refer to as the hot one, which usually is geared towards data that which you interact with regularly, and the cold one, which I think is for merely for preservation. But we do have that is transfer of data either from the hot or the cold. But now I think what I want to pause a bit and show a bit is some of our services include, you've heard about data management planning tool, which we call the SADMP tool, which sort of helps you to think about some of the considerations in how you're going to manage your data through its life cycle. And you're from using that tool, you can generate that, and it also can become useful to submit in order to meet your funder requirements or even your data strategy of your institutions. And of course, we also have a service that we refer to as Data Identifier, through which you can issue digital object identifier for your data and make it more discoverable. And we've got a data deposit tool. You can think of it as a tool that allows you to upload and download and even share your data. And we've also got a DShare tool, which we are developing. And of course, this is not all the services that which we are developing. We have a suite of services that we are developing, one of which is not also showed here, but it's for data discovery. And then with regards to the LTA, it's in orange there because we want to also make it visible on the data common so that you can have on-demand transfer into the LTA from that place. And then you will notice that once you log into the platform, you have this DIE perspective, so to say. But now what is also useful to note is we provide this through a single sign-on. So you subscribe once, and once you sign in, you have access to all the services. So the question is, how do you access these services? So it's simple. Service.derisa@ac.za, and then from that link you'll be able to reach this portal from which you can subscribe. If you have some questions, we do have a wiki which gives you those quick answers to the questions you might have. And of course, there are various ways in which you can log in and register. You have a spoil of choice, actually. So I'll just touch briefly on them quickly. We have a way in which we write. Well, for the purpose of this conversation, I'll call it manual, which you provide your institutional email there, and you set up a password, and then from there, you go by clicking the sign up in order to sign up manually. But you also have the option to sign up using the ORCID. Many of those who are already using NRF or other funders who make use of the Open Research Contributor IDs, or ORCID in short, would be familiar with that. You are also able to register or sign up with ORCID. And we've recently also integrated federated access into our platforms, which means if your institution is also included in Sapphire, you are able to log into a platform using your institutional credentials. So you have actually a spoil of choice. So you can pick whichever ones works for you, but all of them are accessible. So after you've done that registration process, there will just be an internal process, a review process, and you'll have communications and through the email that which you would have used to register, and then once approved, you are good to go. So I'm just showing some of the options that are there. Of course, there are more benefits than just the options. So, but some of the options there is that you can create a data plan, and at the end of that, have a file in various forms. You can reuse existing templates. You can request us to upload or to include different types of templates. You can search some of the plans that might have been published. When you generate a plan, you do have the option to choose if you want to make it publicly accessible or you want to keep it private. And then in terms of that data deposit tool I talked about, it actually have just a simple web-based interface from which you are able to create some sort of list of your collections there, and you can name them. You actually have even that visual perspective of your data. This is controlled by you. You also choose who can have access to it. You can control whom you want to share with. What I should also mention is it is more geared towards data sets that are or a file that is less than 10 gig. Once you go up, it would be ideal to go and make use of the global service I talked about, because then you would be able to handle even larger file sizes. I'll just rush quickly in the interest of time, and I'll also indicate that you would have seen that. Let me just highlight that after you've signed up and you click on the data deposit tool, you'll notice that there's a 100 gig allocation there. So everyone who just signs up, by just signing up, you have 100 gig of space to store your data there. Of course, if that is not adequate for your research data, you are able to submit a storage request through one of the. This service is also just on the same platform, so you just click there, and then you are able to submit a storage request. You do have to indicate if you want to put it on the hot storage or if you want to put it on the cold storage. And when you do choose the cold storage, which is the LTA, because the LTA is intended for longer periods, and by long I mean beyond 3 years up to 10 years or 15 years, but short period we are talking about ranges of 3 years or so to support that average time of a research project. So you would have to think about aspects such as having at least more than one custodian, because a lot can happen in 10 years. And then I've talked about a service that allows you to generate a DOI. So this would encourage the outputs that you have to be discoverable. And I talked about Globus. So Globus, what you would have to first do is to go to globus.org and then register an account. It should be free. Once you have a profile on Globus, what we would require from you is just a Globus ID, which you get from globus.org account once you are signed in. And then on our side, the DIRISA end, you'll after having that Globus ID, you come to the Data Commons platform, you will see this little icon. The first time when you click it, it then requests you to provide that Globus the identity. And then once you've provided there, then you can submit. One of our engineers in our team will review our application, and then we'll interface that Globus profile to DIRISA profile, and then from which afterwards you are then able to start interfacing and moving data to whichever endpoint that is connected to Globus. So I'm just using this as an illustration to say, on the other side of the CHPC, you would also just need to get your Globus ID, send a request to help desk, and then request them to map your Globus profile to the CHPC. And then from there, once those are mapped on both ends, then you're able to move data from the CHPC to DIRISA or from DIRISA to the CHPC. So I'm just showing you there as a, quickly to say, you would have like one point which it would be from your cluster. What you see there would be what is, the repository structure on your cluster, and what you also see on this side would be some sort of structure of what you have on the DIRISA end. And as I've indicated, with this platform, you don't necessarily have to sit and wait until the data is complete. You can schedule it at your convenience, and then you can also avoid having to lose that data within a period of time. I know that as researchers, we generate a lot of data. We don't always have the time to go and prioritize quickly, which is key, but you can schedule that and then push the data to DIRISA, and at your convenience, go and refine, and whatever that which you deem as quality, you can then preserve and keep to on our infrastructure. So let me just end at this point and highlight that it is important to approach this journey, and I realize that data is an asset, so we need to think about how we're going to accumulate this data, how we're going to manage it throughout the life cycle. And also the beautiful part about this is this data would be having residency in South Africa. We talked about sovereignty. And of course, in certain instances, because of the collaborative environment from both the DDT side and also for Globus, you are able to share. You do your work, and that in several instances, you'll be able to avoid redoing what you perhaps could have just retrieved data that is there for you to just do some post-analysis. We believe this would encourage enhanced collaboration and drive accelerated innovation and make greater impact. So this is just basically just to flag. You may have seen this at the initial opening to show that there are some, interest in an uptake into our services. And I'd like to end at this point and invite you to have more success in your research journey by just signing up, give it a try. Remember, the service is free for public entities, and then it's simple. Let us know if it be that there's something that which you feel you'd like to see more of. Let me also thank our sponsors, because without them, we would not be able to continue and do the great work that you see here. And should there be any questions, feel free to drop the team an email or myself, and we'd be happy to engage you. Thank you.